Ladies and gentlemen, this is just a fact. President Biden is doing virtually nothing aside from weak and ineffective sanctions, which Vladimir Putin doesn't care about, to help Ukraine. Now, I actually, in a bizarre, roundabout way, like inadvertently, I side with Biden on this, but not for the reasons you might think. I want a good relationship with Russia. I don't want another 50 years of a Cold War where we're at the brink of annihilation and there's mutually assured destruction, and I don't want to ignore the lessons of 50 years of tensions where you have nukes pointed at one another and the planet could end, could be obliterated at any moment. I also don't want Ukraine to be overrun and invaded. I wouldn't mind if Biden sent arms and support like Trump did with javelins that could be used not just against tanks, but a whole bunch of other, anything, really. I explained that in, not anything, but a whole bunch of other targets. I explained that in one of my segments prior to this one. But here you have Russia beefs up warship presence in Black Sea as Ukraine tensions simmer. This is Reuters. No mention of Biden or Hunter or forcing out a prosecutor. No mention at all. No suspicion, because there's no categorical proof. They didn't need absolute categorical evidence to impeach Trump. They knew something was going to happen, that he was pressuring Zelensky, even though he was actually giving Zelensky arms and Ukraine armament to utilize against Russia, which is what President Obama didn't do. So he was the greater hawk. He was more belligerent towards Putin. Trump was the orange menace who could have worked with Russia to buy Facebook ads. I mean, you have to be an imbecile. You have to be an absolute imbecile to believe any of this. Well, Democrats believed it. Why? Because it suited their sensibilities. It provided a scapegoat for Clinton getting annihilated by President Trump. And it gave them a sense that they were morally superior. Now we know that they're not morally superior. They were bluffing the whole time, and they just recreated Cold War tensions simply to save face. You look at Reuters. Russia beefs up a naval presence in Black Sea as Ukraine tensions simmer. So they're sending their navy, or they're increasing their naval presence. They have 85,000 soldiers at the border. So you have a whole bunch of other articles from NBC News. And Democrats love to just utilize public relations, the public relations monstrosity. NBC News, Russia amasses troops near U.S. ally, Ukraine. But what is Putin's goal? Gosh, we just don't know. We just don't know what Putin's goal is. What does he want to do? I mean, he's increasing his naval presence. He's putting almost 100,000 troops at the border of Ukraine. Gee, what do you think he wants? Gee, what do you think Putin wants? Gosh, I just don't know. I mean, obviously he's really afraid of the Democrats. He's fearful. The Kremlin is petrified of the Democratic Party. I mean, they're the ones who didn't work with him to buy Facebook ads. Oh, no, sorry. The DNC and Clinton purchased a dossier with help from one Russian intelligence official, so maybe they were almost certainly in on the whole thing as well. The person who was laughing the most at what Democrats did to this country by blaming Russia for their loss in 2016 is Putin. Now, there's nothing you can do short of telling European countries not to get their gas or oil from Russia, or short of a military altercation, which can't happen. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. We cannot have a military altercation with Russia. That can't happen. Okay? Because that would be the end of the planet. People say climate change and they're morally superior because they love the planet. Climate change. Yeah, it's a serious issue, I agree. But you know what's even more serious? Nuclear annihilation. That's even more serious. And so, what is Biden doing to protect Ukraine? I thought that he was the point man. Didn't President Obama make him the point man for Ukraine? Didn't President Obama give Biden the authority, apparently, to do anything he wanted, even force out a prosecutor? Of course, that had nothing to do with why he's doing absolutely nothing now. In fact, here's a fact check. Fact check, is Biden pressuring Ukraine to drop investigations by withholding aid? Wrong. This is our ruling. See, you don't need a fact check. There's no our ruling or we rate. But see, this is a rebuttal. Trump ally George Papadopoulos claims Joe Biden is, quote, withholding $150 million in aid from Ukraine to pressure Ukraine to drop all criminal investigations into him and his son Hunter. There's no evidence of any such investigations. The Biden administration released $125 million in military aid to Ukraine, but federal law is withholding $150 million until Ukraine enacts military reforms. Military reforms? What? Why would... Okay, so you want to enact reforms now when they're at the brink of a potential invasion, and so we rate the claims false. And, of course, it talks about how, a parliament opened up an investigation. Hold on. So they opened up... Previous legislation also required... So hold on 1 second. There was one person who opened up an investigation, but honestly, a judge in Ukraine ordered the criminal case filed to be opened regarding Biden's efforts as vice president to get Ukraine's top prosecutor removed from office. But the bar is low in Ukraine for opening up such a criminal case, so Papadopoulos was right? Is that what's going on? It was requested by a member of parliament, and the opening of the file does not mean that a criminal investigation was launched with probable cause or that Biden is a suspect. I mean, come on. Even if there was a file to be opened regarding Biden's efforts as vice president, we don't even know if he's even part of it. I mean, it was filed by anybody could file it. You could file it. You could go to you could file. You go to the post office now. You could file it yourself, and the Ukrainian judge will just open it up. I mean, you can do anything. Honestly, we just this is a PolitiFact. So we have no clue. Honestly, even though Hunter's emails are incriminating, and they're actually written by him and received by him and written by foreign business associates in that country. He was on the board of directors. It was totally fine. I mean, honestly, look, the Trump children did worse, a lot worse. We don't know what they did, but no doubt they did worse. Honestly, this is such tinfoil hat theory to think that Biden, who had like $100,000 or $200,000 going into the vice presidency in 2008, who now has $9 to $12 million. It's an absurd notion to even think that he lined his pockets because of business deals brokered by his son, which are documented in the emails that he left in a laptop at a computer repair store, very likely in a drunken stupor. But honestly, look, there's no evidence Ukraine is investigating the Bidens. It says right here, I'll put the link below. I will put the link to the fact check below. To abide by YouTube policies. I'm not even trying to tell you that Ukraine is investigating anybody. In fact, there's no evidence at all, except an investigation was started, but there's no evidence that Biden has anything to do with it. I'm just trying to tell you what the fact check article says. Anyway, Biden, our beloved President Biden, who is bringing democracy back to America and the world. We didn't have democracy for 4 years, and the Constitution was being used as toilet paper by the Orange Menace. Now we have a flourishing democracy, and a very competent and responsible president who does nothing, absolutely bupkis, zilch, nada, zero, nothing, to help our ally Ukraine. In fact, he gave some money, but honestly, they have to reform their military before we help them one bit more. That's what this article says. How about helping your ally now? I thought that you were the hawks that Putin feared the most. Gosh, I thought Putin feared you the most. Looks like he doesn't fear you that much. Looks like maybe you were bluffing for 4 years. Again, I kind of side with Biden on this, but not for the reasons you might think. I knew all along that Democrats were full of you-know-what. I knew that when push came to shove, that they wouldn't do anything to help Ukraine. Because that's what they're the most deceitful political party of all time. Even Romney wouldn't do that much. Bush didn't. Both establishment Republicans and Democrats are oftentimes deceitful liars who would demonize and vilify Putin while at the same time doing nothing to stop him, which is understandable because, again, he has nukes. And we had 50 years of the Cold War. We learned lessons, and even with that situation, you can't have Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld, or President Obama, Biden, and Clinton with Libya. You can't take a risk at completely annihilating the whole planet. So you talk a big game. You talk about how Trump is working with Putin. You talk about for 4 years. You call people comrade on social media. I don't have Twitter or Facebook. I haven't had Twitter or Facebook for 3 years. But I mean, it was just a cauldron of misinformation, disinformation, nonsense, sanctioned by Twitter, by the way. Twitter never had caution, this is a disputed claim. The Steele dossier gives you no evidence that Trump enjoyed a certain bodily shower. This is purely conjecture and hyperbole, and just probably the dreams of Bill Clinton. Oh, I helped write the Steele dossier, don't you know? That's what I love to do in the Moscow hotel room. Oh, by the way, it was Bill Clinton who met with Putin at his home to speak about the Uranium One issue. But again, that had nothing to do with anything. With Uranium One giving money to the Clinton Foundation has nothing to do with President Obama not vetoing the sale. I read Snopes. Okay? Nothing to do with anything. And Biden has nothing to do, even though he forced out a prosecutor. It was just because the prosecutor was bad himself. He wasn't doing his job. Everything is rooted in altruism. If you even dare suspect anything, you're a horrible human being who should never have been born. But with Trump, it's anything goes. You can accuse him of anything. But he's the one who was more hawkish. He's the one who was more militant, you could say, against Putin, belligerent. Okay? Now, every article written, honestly, what can Biden do? It's just, what does Putin want to do now? This is bizarre. Everything is public relations spin. We don't know, honestly, what they're going to do. And, Biden is known for his tough stance. And it was Trump, the Mueller probe, Mueller time. And, Russian Facebook ads. It's unbelievable how we live in a world with so much information at your fingertips, and we're less intelligent and we possess less wisdom as a society. Less. We were a smarter, better country before social media. And I'm not even saying even before the internet. I think the country was better before the internet, but even before social media, the internet, towards the beginning of the internet was great. It was great. The beginning of YouTube was fantastic. And now look, I have a YouTube channel. I'm a YouTuber. So I love this element of the internet, but social media ruined this country's critical thinking skills to where you now have people believing that Democrats are the ones that Putin fears the most, even though they're the ones that do the least to actually go up against Vladimir Putin, which is just typical of the public relations onslaught. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe right now. Be here tomorrow at 8 a.m. Pacific for the live stream. Tomorrow evening, Monday, April 19th.